So, you want to learn how to play Sin and Strive? As a longtime Sin player, I figured I could sit down and slap a little something together. I was looking for guides to send some friends that are just getting into Strive and want to pick up the character, but the beginner-friendly ones are mostly outdated due to the drastic changes that Seasons 3 and 4 brought with them, namely with the Wild Assault changes, and most of the up-to-date videos are filled with complex stuff that a beginner won't be able to grasp so easily. My intention here is to provide enough knowledge to get a complete Sin newbie started with a character, and then introduce some advanced tech to evolve your gameplay as you improve on your fundamentals. I'm going to leave some timestamps in the description in case you want to skip around, because this video will be segmented. One quick note, I will be using numpad notation to refer to special moves and command normals throughout the guide, so just know what that is and you'll be fine. Quick overview. Sin Kisk is an aggressive footsies character who excels in the neutral game due to his long-range, disjointed pokes and burst movement options, but also does some serious work on offense with simple but highly effective high-low mix and strike throw threats. He's kept in check by his unique resource, the stamina gauge. There's 3 bars of this gauge in total, and 1 is used when adding a follow-up attack to his special moves, or when canceling these moves and follow-ups into a dash. When Sin runs out of stamina, he loses the ability to cancel his specials into their follow-ups and their dashes, leaving many of his strings unsafe and causing his combos to end or drop entirely. Always be aware of how much stamina you have when making decisions on how to apply offensive pressure, what combos to use once you land your hits, and what gimmicks to pull in the neutral game. His in-your-face kit is rounded out by a strong defensive presence with a meterless reversal in the form of a DP that demands his opponents respect him even when he's on his back foot, and a super that can lead to a wall break from almost anywhere on the screen under the right circumstances. If you're into characters with high conversion ability, solid damage and quarter carry, great neutral presence, and tools that enable creativity, Sin is definitely a solid pick for you. Buttons. Let's start by going over Sin's buttons, or his normal. Alright, first up, his 5P, just a quick jab. This is a move that doesn't see a whole lot of use outside of niche anti-air situations. Because of its long range and 6-frame startup, it can sometimes lead to a more consistent anti-air catch than 6P, but it lacks the upper body invincibility of a dedicated anti-air. Due to its tiny vertical hitbox, this move will whiff on every crouching character in the game, and even some standing, so it's really not a great tool in most situations. 6P, on the other hand, is an absolute beast of an anti-air. Aside from its incredible range and upper body invincibility, it can be used to reliably cancel into 236K to close in and create pressure, or even lead into 214S on counter hit for a nice chunk of damage. This move also has the ability to beat up plenty of mid-ranged buttons due to its size, making it one of Sin's most versatile threats. 2P is your standard crouching normal. At 5 frames, it isn't the fastest that a move like this can be, but it does its job and it does it well. While primarily used as a fast mash-out tool when you don't want to commit to a DP or a super, 2P can actually lead to some really good Oki on normal and counter hit if you're ready for it to hit. Onto the kicks. 5K is a pretty standard neutral move, mostly used in situations where you need a quick hitbox to stuff an approach. While close slash and far slash do a lot of the same things 5K does, but with a further reach, those moves can't scrap as hard due to slower startups and more specific ranges. 5K also has the universal benefit of being able to Gatlin into 2D or 6H, leading to a hard knockdown or frame trap at most ranges. At only 1 frame slower than its crouching punch cousin, Sin's 2K is a great option not only for staggering pressure due to its surprising range and combo potential, but also a great way to get yourself out of some nasty defensive situations. On normal hit and counter hit, a quick reaction can turn into a wall break from almost anywhere on the screen, something Sin in particular gets a ton of mileage out of. "6K is a low-hitting plus on-block pressure starter or resetter, depending on the situation, and one of his most potent tools on offense. While it does take a while to start up, this 21-frame kick makes sure the opponent feels its impact both on hit and block, as it can boast a full combo, should you have the meter, or a scary +3 situation that leads perfectly into 2K for a clean setup. Since it can be cancelled, 6K also leads directly into either 236K or 214S for a high-low mix-up, which, if blocked, can lead to another frame trap. More on that later, but 6K is a staple of Sin's Oki and pressure game that should always be worked into your strategy. Now, the slash buttons. As is the case with most characters, Sin's close slash is the absolute cornerstone of his pressure game. At +1 on block, it isn't exactly the most advantageous close slash in the game, but Sin more than makes up for it with the plethora of options it grants him. The move is incredibly active, allowing for pretty easy meaty timings, and its expansive Gatlin list lets Sin do basically whatever he wants after landing it. He can 6k to reset pressure, 2h to threaten a low, delay 5h or 6h to frame trap, and of course, on hit close slash leads to many of his most damaging combo routes. Due to its large hitbox and anti-air specific ground bounce effect, it can also be used as a high risk but quite high reward anti-air. And of course, it always sets up for a dash and a throw. Far Slash, on the other hand, is not quite as versatile, but that is not to say that it lacks potential. Its range and speed make it both an excellent whiff punish tool and a way to force your way in from medium ranges, but shouldn't really be cancelled into anything other than 236k or 236h, since it will usually hit too far away for a 5 or 2h to connect afterwards. 2S, although it may look like one, is sadly not a low hitting attack. Like Far Slash, its range and hitbox lend it to be used as a punish tool rather than a pressure starter, and also like Far Slash, it should really only be cancelled into 236k and 236h. Sin's heavy attacks are the only parts of his toolkit that really can't be used in neutral due to either their weird hitboxes or overall long animation times, with 5h being the most painful button of the three to whiff. Its crazy long animation and lack of real combo ability makes it only really useful as a pressure tool, but that's where it shines. It leads to frame traps on both 236k and 214s, making it an automatic high-low threat, plus, with its 2 hits, which can both be cancelled, always leads to a timing mix-up. "2H is 5H's much more useful cousin. As Sin's primary combo heavy, 2H will pop the opponent up to extend many of his combo routes. That being said, do not ever do this move on block without cancelling, since it will leave you at a terrible -16 and practically confirms that you eat the biggest punish you can. 6H, however, is his best move for when a counter hit is guaranteed, such as in the case of an opponent whiffing a reversal or throw. Although its smaller hitbox makes it a poor neutral tool, its ability to be Gatlin from 2k, 5k, and close slash make it great combo filler in the corner or as a frame trap button, and it's almost always going to lead into huge damage on counter hit. Last but not least for grounded moves, we have the dust attacks. 5D is a universal quick overhead that can be Gatlinged from 5k, 2k, and close slash for a mix-up that's only saved with meter, and of course leads into massive damage when charged. Due to the existence of 214S, you really don't have to use this move all too much, but tap 5D is always something to keep in the back of your mind should you ever have 50 meter to spend on a quick overhead gamble. 2D is also a pretty standard attack. As Sin's main knockdown tool, 2D is typically seen Gatlin from 2k or 5k to threaten stagger pressure with a low or score a knockdown. It functions as an amazing round start button, since even when it trades, a hard knockdown will occur, giving Sin immediate Oki. Onto the jumping normals, his JP is the standard issue quick air-to-air challenge and not much else. It can combo into itself for some quick damage, and maybe combo into JS or JH at correct spacings, but usually you aren't thinking that far ahead when you're in a scramble situation and you have to go for this move. His JK does have a little more going for it, as it's a more rewarding move than JP since it pops the opponents up for continued combos, but it is slightly slower. Using this button against opponents who love to take to the skies is a great idea, since you can always look for ways to extend your combo after landing. JS is Sin's best jump-in, but he isn't really a character who wants to spend a whole lot of time airborne, so it's just kind of okay. On counter hit, it can Gatlin into JH and lead to a grounded combo, but that's really it. JH is a flying wall of a move that robs a criminal amount of airspace from the opponent, making it a great air-to-air button, as well as a cheeky mix-up on a blocking opponent with an instant back air dash. Finally, we have Sin's JD. While it does have its use cases in very niche situations, such as specific corner combos and anti-air application, the move is almost always unsafe on block and isn't even enough safe on hit to confirm into anything. Use it at your own risk, but it is funny. Now for universal tools, we're going to be going over ground throws, air throws, and orange wild assaults. Like all other characters, throws will grant Sin a hard knockdown and allow him to run his pressure in whichever way he chooses. In the corner, I opt for OTG close slash dash cancelled into immediate close slash, which you can do a whole lot out of. Of course, you can do anything else from this. Mid-screen, I like to run up and manually time a close slash meaty, even though there is the option of an auto-timed safe jump with a whiffed 5p into an IED FDC JS, but that's not very beginner friendly, so you can forget it for now. When it comes to air throws, Sin's are again the standard deal. However, since he has such good air-to-air buttons with JK and anti-air tools like 6p, you wouldn't really be using that this much. That being said, air throw is always a great way to slam a cornered opponent back to the ground if they try to jump their way out. In the context of Sin's toolkit, Wild Assault is an extremely effective way to spend burst. While Orange Wild Assault is commonly used by characters that have it to extend pressure sequences and combos, the move uniquely benefits Sin by allowing him to do these two things without spending his tension gauge or his stamina gauge. This lets him be able to consistently threaten full stage combos and extensions most characters simply don't have the tools to pull off, making him one of the most dangerous Wild Assault users in the game. With the Season 4 changes to Wild Assault, making it so that Wild Assault no longer hard knockdowns on wall break, he also has a lot more agency in its use, since he can pretty much throw it out whenever he needs to and not be punished for lacking the resource in the corner anymore. Now for his special moves. Sin's special moves are where he really gets interesting. Although he only has 4 to speak of, these moves all serve such distinct and versatile functions that they can be mixed and matched into your offensive game plan in any way you prefer, allowing for a wild degree of player expression and freedom not seen in many other characters, with the exception of his DP. That's just a DP. One thing to note about Sin's specials is that every single one of them is punishable on block and even on hit if done without their follow-up attacks, which all cost 1 bar of stamina. This is why keeping track of it is so important. One overextension, you're eating a full punish. Keep in mind that almost all combos from a special move's follow-up will cost an additional bar of stamina for the dash cancel pickup, making these sorts of situations very high reward, but very meter intensive. Let's just get this one out of the way. First, we have Still Growing. 63214P, or Half Circle Back Punch, is easily the most useless move in Sin's entire kit. It applies a random buff that lasts for 2 to 6 seconds depending on the item he shoves down his gullet, but the effects of these buffs are so minor that the move is only worth trading Oki for if you're trying to piss someone off. Beak Driver, or 236H, is a massive strike that controls almost half of the screen. As long as you don't wish for the move, which is really hard to do, 236H leads into a devious strike throw mix-up with either a delayed follow-up attack or a grab after a dash cancel. The follow-up itself has many distinct uses, as it provides great corner carry on normal hit and crazy pickups on counter hit. More on that in the advanced section. Elk Hunt, or 236K, is a fast low-hitting lunge commonly used as an approaching tool. The move accounts for the low part of Sin's high-low game, and when used to end launch combos, it leaves just enough time for Sin to chase the opponent and apply pressure. 236K's follow-up attack is unique in that it guard crushes on block, leading into a massively advantageous +8 situation for Sin, or a full combo on counter hit when used to punish a mash or throw attempt. Hoof Stomp, 214S, is the overhead half of the high-low mix. Due to the little hop Sin does, this move is great at crushing lows, as well as being a potent jump scare following 6K. Actually, since 214S and 6K are both 21 frame moves, the opponent is forced to either guess or react to whichever one you choose. Always have a bar of stamina on hand when going for 214S, since it does leave you a massive -8. The follow-up attack is really only a way to make it safe if blocked, but it can also be used as a frame trap in very specific situations. Last up, we have Hawkbaker, Sin's DP. Inputted as 623S, the standard DP input, this 9-frame meterless reversal is responsible for most of the glue eating that we Sin players do. The move can technically have 3 hits, as there's a rising hit, a falling hit, and a follow-up attack, but if the first hit is blocked, there's enough time for the falling hit to be interrupted for a full combo. The second hit is also very easy to punish. Due to its weird nature, the move can actually be more punishing than a normal DP, as it is far easier to react to on block. Tying all of these moves together is the Gazelle Step, which I have been referring to simply as dash cancel this whole time, because that's basically what it is. Unique to Sin is the ability to dash cancel his special moves and their follow-ups, leading to insane corner carry through advancing combo extensions and the constant threat of a grab. While it is very reactable at 24 frames, the key to utilizing this technique on offense is unpredictability. Knowing when to fly in and steal your turns is integral to keeping your opponents on their toes, and you can catch conditioned opponents off guard pretty easily. The Gazelle Step can be used after a follow-up, but is most effective used before, since your opponents will have to worry about both the follow-up attack and a dash cancel, leading to the ever-present strike throw predicament should you have the meter for it. Perhaps most importantly, Gazelle Step opens up the ability to Kara cancel any of Sin's moves, except his DP, into either of his 2 supers. While this technique doesn't use a bar of stamina, it does require you to cancel one, as this technique works by canceling the startup of Gazelle Step into a super. More on that in the advanced sections. Now for his supers. Due to their ability to be Kara cancelled out of his special moves, Sin's 2 supers are easily his most meter-effective combo tools. His overdrive input, RTL, is an invincible reversal with the possibility to perform 4 total hits. By inputting 632146H, or half circle back forward heavy, also referred to as the GG input, Sin transforms into a ball of energy that can hit 3 times, 1 per press of the heavy slash button, with the possibility of a 4th hit that dumps all of Sin's remaining meter into one final burst of energy. This follow-up is really only worth going for if it will guarantee a kill, since RTL is basically always going to send the opponent through a wall and grant Sin a hard knockdown, positive bonus anyways. The corner carry provided by the move is so massive that it can be tacked onto the end of almost any combo at almost any position to result in a wall break, but it does lack the damage needed to make it worth using over his other super in certain situations. Which, speaking of, his other super, Tyrant Barrel, or 236-236P, is an incredibly damaging combo ender if you can get the timing down. The super involves a quick explosion on the ground, but you have to hold P the entire time since there is an automatic follow-up attack. This follow-up has 3 different hitboxes: a regular hit, a strong hit, and a weak hit. Tyrant Barrel's sweet spot is what's known as a clean hit, and this hit has a very tiny window to activate. Should you time it right, a clean hit Tyrant Barrel will provide better Oki mid-screen, break the wall from farther ranges, and do substantially more damage than the standard Tyrant Barrel. But if you release P too late, the super barely does anything, not even breaking the wall in the corner. If you're not confident in the clean hit timing, simply release P for the earlier hit, which will still provide wall breaks, Oki, and good damage, just not great damage. Now let's get to strategy. Round start. For all the work that Sin does in neutral and during his pressure, he actually tends to have a hard time scoring meaningful hits during round start. That being said, he does have a couple tricks up his sleeve to kick off his rounds. For starters, 2D can be a great tool to call out opponents who want to open up by running at you. This leads to an immediate hard knockdown, which means it's immediately your turn. 2S is his quickest move that can reach the opponent at round start, and naturally leads into 236H on hit or block to either score a knockdown or force RPS. A great option for catching opponents who want to create a little distance. 6P is a call-out button that hits high, beating out some pokes from certain characters and leading to knockdowns with 236H on normal hit or 236K on counter hit. Elk Hunt is a great way to catch people who immediately disengage with a backdash, but it is much slower than the rest of his options. Finally, due to the general nature of his kit, Sin is also able to comfortably back off himself at round start and search for pokes to punish his opponent for trying to make a risky play. Remember, you don't always have to be aggressive as soon as the round starts. Sin's neutral game is a particularly interesting aspect of his play, since he seems to be tooled towards rushing in as soon as possible, but he actually wants to control the mid-range until he can find a relatively safe way in. While the option of Elk Hunt is always available as a quick all-in rush, the fact that it's punishable on block without a follow-up and can be reactable makes it require a lot of unpredictability. Fortunately for Sin, he has a couple moves he can rely on to make this job easier. 6P is an excellent way to force your opponent to respect your ground due to its fantastic range and upper body invulnerability, especially since it can combo into 236H to either force RPS on block or score a knockdown. 2S and Far Slash are the complements to 6P, with each having their own pros and cons. Since 2S is a great poke and Far Slash is a great whiff punish tool. Both do great with stopping reckless players in their tracks. Using these 3 buttons to keep your opponent at bay will eventually open up opportunities to dash in with wild assaults, confirm into a buffer 236H for a knockdown, or open up the chance to take a shot at an Elk Hunt. 236H on its own can also be a fantastic poke due to its massive hitbox and quick access to Gazelle Step and a follow-up, but beware of its lingering hitbox. This move can be punished quite easily if your opponent knows what they're doing. Once the opponent is conditioned to expect these ground options, you can take to the skies with an IAD-JS, but be warned that Sin has some issues with plus frames on his jump-ins, namely that he doesn't really have any. With that being said, one of Sin's most effective neutral tools might also be his simplest, his 2K. Due to its surprising range and ability to Gatlin into 2D, bulldogging your way into 2K range is a great way for Sin to get his offense started. This can be done with just a dash into 2K, since Sin moves pretty quick, but could also be accessed in all sorts of ways. Remember to be creative. Offense. Once you land a solid hit in the neutral and get your knockdown, or just end up in your opponent's face, your goal is to extend your turn as long as possible with Sin's potent strike throw, high-low, and stagger pressure game. In order to access any of this, of course, we must first fish for some Oki. Close Slash and 6K are easily Sin's best options for meaties and starting pressure, since they both lead to massive combos on counter hit and demand respect from the opponents. For strike throw, Sin's close slash can set up for a quick dash and grab, or he can go for a counter hit on an attempted throw tech. This is a technique pretty much every character has and allows for looping pressure off of a bread and butter starter. He can also delay the follow-up attacks from each of his moves and frame trap, throw, and mash attempts with huge counter hits. Condition your opponents into this situation by canceling your specials into Gazelle Step on block and going for the throw. To steal his turn back, Sin can always cancel close slash into 6k, but this is vulnerable to mashing, so don't do it every time. His high-low mix-ups are self-explanatory. Elk Hunt is the low-hitting move that can be car cancelled into supers, and 214S does the same thing, except it hits overhead. Rotate between these two options to poke holes in your opponent's defense, but don't rely entirely on them because they're technically both reactable. As with every character, Sin can also threaten an overhead with Tap FID, and Red Roman cancel to either combo or keep his pressure going. Additionally, Sin's stagger pressure is absolutely brutal in the right hands. Delayed Gatling cancels do a lot for his pressure, with close slash to 6H being particularly punishing, but just doing 2Ks or 2 close slashes in a row are great ways to push your turn to its limits and crank your opponent's risk higher with every little jab. Finally, the most important part of Sin's offense is to be creative. Almost every top Sin player plays his offensive game in drastically different ways, as his kit allows for an element of player expression not found in most other characters. Find what tools work for you, carve out your own offensive structure, and play the game that you want to play. Defense. Sin's defense is some of the most straightforward in the entire game, and that's not to say it's in his detriment. His 2P is a solid 5-frame mashing option, best used for when you think your opponent is dashing in to steal their turn with a greedy option, when you know a throw is on its way and you don't want to settle for a throw tech or risk a DP. 2K is only 1 frame slower, can be used in many of the same situations, and leads to disgusting conversions, or just a hard knockdown with 2K2D, letting Sin turn his opponent's turn into his. Throw can obviously work if your opponent gets a little too close for their own good, but be careful since grabbing leaves you open to huge counter hit damage. And of course, there's the infamous DP. Since it is a 9-frame DP, Sin has to hold some safe jumps that work on 7-frame reversals, but a DP is still a DP. Blow through your opponent's attempts to extend their pressure, throw you, meaty you, or do just about anything. You can also, of course, use Gazelle Step after landing it to immediately start your offense, and start pressure with 6k if the DP counter hits. Just make sure you don't get baited, because Sin's DP is extremely punishable on both the first hit, second hit, and follow-up Gazelle Step. Finally, RTL is his metered reversal that he should really be saving to use for combos, Kara canceling, and stamina management. Now that we have the abstract parts of Sin's gameplay out of the way, we can move on to a few of his more advanced but vital techniques. The skill that all Sin mains need to have down to even start tapping into his potential is Kara canceling his supers with Gazelle Step. This is why stamina management is so important. You need to always have 1 bar of stamina in the tank in order to pull this off. So, how do you make sure you don't run out of stamina? That's the easy part. Sin's stamina gauge is very simple to understand. Using a special move's follow-up attack or Gazelle Step uses 1 bar. After using a follow-up, stamina will start regenerating in 2 seconds, but after using Gazelle Step, it'll begin refilling in 1. Because of this, Sin wants to end a lot of his combos with Gazelle Step to cut his recovery time in half, while still applying pressure in the form of Oki. It's important to note that generally, Sin doesn't want to spend any more than 1 bar on a combo unless it will absolutely kill or stick someone to the wall, and to reserve his stamina usage for establishing pressure with Gazelle Step after a knockdown. With that out of the way, it should be known that while this technique requires 1 bar of stamina, it doesn't actually take the bar away. This is because we are canceling the startup of the Gazelle Step into a super. This is done by buffering the super input during a special move, then inputting the dash in a corresponding button in quick succession. For example, if I wanted to finish a combo with 236H into Tyrant Barrel, my input would be 236H, 236, dash macro P. And if I wanted to end a combo with 236K into RTL, my input would be 236K, GG input, dash input H. The dash macro makes this much easier, so I cannot recommend enough that you learn how to use it. While it might feel weird at first, once you get these inputs down, they'll be second nature, and you'll be canceling specials into supers left and right for ridiculous damage and wall breaks from just about anywhere on the stage. Here are some important combos. This is the part of the video where you should pause, hit the lab, and test some of these out for yourself. I've included here a wide range of combos, from metered combos to wild assault combos to stamina intensive and stamina reserving combos, pretty much anything that you could need. Some of these combos can be pretty niche, but generally, most of his high damaging routes are stamina-less, so you should learn these links. Alright, there you have it. Thanks for watching this extensive little guide on how to get started with Sin Kisk. I've been maining him for a couple of months, and going through so much character information to make this guide has took me back to the basics and helped me gain an even deeper understanding for the character. Please let me know if there's anything you'd like to see me do or leave out if I make another one of these. Now, go out there, play Sin, and eat some glue.